What's up? What's up? Social media family, PowerPath family. We're live everywhere. Facebook group, Instagram, YouTube channel. And today we are doing another weekly Wednesday training. But I talk to more and more people all the time. And all I get asked if somebody who doesn't know is, what is this co-hosting thing, right? And there's a lot of people in this group right now in the free Facebook group and people on Instagram and people we talk to, they just have no idea. They only know of like, if they're going to get into short-term rentals, there's only, in their mind, there's only two ways to get in, right? It's arbitrage or purchase. So today we're just having an open live Q&A, ask me anything. Sent out a couple of emails about it. I did not create an event this time. I just want to kind of see how that goes and just go through some stuff, common questions, common, just kind of debunk some of these things and just go through some stuff, right? Like, people want to know a little bit about it, but they don't necessarily know where to start, or, they just have general questions. So look, we are live everywhere, okay? If you have a question, if you're watching on YouTube or you're watching on Facebook, you're watching on Instagram, just leave a question. There's a little bit of a delay between, when you post a question and when it shows up. So just give me a couple of minutes, give me a couple of seconds. If you ask a question, I will try to bring it in. But I have a list of questions too that I'm going to go over that are very common, or somebody sent something to me in the last couple of weeks that we are going to cover. Okay. Now, again, if you leave a question, please just be patient. I'm trying to monitor all of them, and we'll go from there. So first things first, I'm Kyle Fugit. We manage a little over 100 doors, include regular short-term rentals and hotels. We've got 3 hotels that are under management and part ownership in. So I would love to say I've seen it all, and I'm sure I'm going to see more, between hotel guests and short-term rental guests. But we're in Blue Ridge. We're in Tennessee. We got a property in New Hampshire. Got a property in Maine. Those are the hotels up north. And I got some stuff in Florida here and there. Got some stuff in New York here and there. But overall, when you get into coasting, and majority of our short-term rental portfolio is co-hosted. Okay, so it is managed for somebody else. And we're just going to kick it off with first things first is what is co-hosting, right? So this is the most standard question if somebody doesn't know. So I'll give you, for instance, and why these questions come up. Talking to a couple of people who are looking at arbitrage and deals, right? Airbnb arbitrage. And that's totally cool. There's nothing wrong with that. I've looked at arbitrage deals myself. I've had a lot of students that do arbitrage. And I don't shove arbitrage down people's throats, because when it comes to the short-term rental, like the single-family homes, it's really hit or miss. Most of the time you're missing on the arbitrage side, because you got to furnish it. It's got to pay for itself. And you've got more cons than good. And especially when the rent rates went through the roof around COVID and just after, it's really hurt a lot of people that were in arbitrage. But if you can take down half of an apartment complex, you can take 6 units, 7 units down, 9 units down, that's where your stuff really will make sense, right? So you got an apartment that is just trying to lease up. That's a really good method you could go through. But for arbitrage, I don't push it hard. But there's 3 ways to get into short-term rentals, okay? There's the ownership model, which we support in the community. There's the arbitrage model, which I will help with. I just don't push you there, okay? We don't push that. I've coached more people out of bad arbitrage deals than I have out of, in the good ones. It's bad. Okay. Anyways, but the third way that for some reason not a lot of people know what it is co-hosting. Everybody knows what co-hosting is, but Airbnb coined this term co-hosting. They just coined it, right? A traditional co-host, and this is important. So if you're watching this, and I'm trying to go back and forth and make sure I don't miss any questions. If you are traditional co-host, like a couple of years ago, you got this label of co-host. That traditionally is somebody who comes onto an Airbnb account, with the little circle and the icon at the bottom, and it's a 5% or 10% fee, and all they do is guest communication. That is like your traditional co-host, okay? On Airbnb that have a regular host and then they have a little co-host, it'd be like co-host, and you can have, I don't know, have 3, 4, 5 co-hosts, whatever. And these people are just helping with certain things, helping with operations, helping with messaging, whatever. You don't see that as much anymore. What has happened is this bucket of co-hosting has merged with full turnkey service management. So if somebody in our industry says, hey, I'm a co-host, I co-host 20 properties, whatever, more times than not, they mean they are a management company and they take over, full service turnkey management. Every once in a while, you'll see an owner that might be on the property too. But if you guys have ever heard of Acosta, if you've ever heard of Evolve, which I'm sure everybody here has, those are now today is what you would say is like a management co-hosting company. Okay. So if you know what Acosta is, they're turnkey full service management. Evolve is not. Evolve is more of like the marketing side. They charge 10%. They get you bookings, but you do all the operations yourself. And so what we look at is like, okay, well, the co-host, like everybody knows what it is. If you rent on Airbnb, if you rent a property on Airbnb or VRBO, you're renting from somebody who's managing that property. Like you're booking it from whatever name or phone, photo or whatever that is down there. That is your co-host. That is your management company. Okay. So this full bucket of like co-hosting, that's what that is, right? It's a management company. So what we do personally and what we help a lot of other people do is when they come in to get into co-hosting, maybe they already own a couple of properties, they want to manage the neighbor's property, or they don't have the cash to start purchasing right out the gate. They want to build a service-based business. Co-hosting is a service-based business. But the word business is very important because that's what it is, right? So when you start a co-hosting company, we have to start the business. We have to start the brand. We have to build that foundation. And from there, we're going to be pushing out. We're going to be client acquisitions. We're going to be growing. There's all these different ways of lead gen, and there's like 15 different ways to lead gen. But as that grows, you're building a business, right? It's not just like you buy a property and you manage it, and you buy a property and you manage it, and you buy another property and manage it, which is great, right? That's what everybody's end goal pretty much is to own them all. But when we talk about service-based business, you're launching, you're scaling, you're building teams, you're putting your systems operations together, you're doing all this thing. And at the end of the day, let's say your goal is $50,000 a month and you want 50 properties or 75 properties, what have you. We're building a business to support that. Okay. We have people that we're hiring and we become the leader or the CEO or whatever, the owner. You're kind of coming out of that job role and you're building a full business. Okay. So people don't like, I couldn't tell you how many people just don't fully grasp that. They don't fully understand that. They're just like, I'm going to go get a couple of properties. Cool. But like, then what? Okay. You got like 3 or 4 properties and now you're doing everything yourself because you don't have the cash flow to technically like hire your first VA. From there, like we have to keep building the business. And once you get to a certain point in co-hosting, like you can build a management company and you can sell it. You can sell the contracts, you sell the business, you can sell all these things. It is a full service turnkey business, period. Okay. So as you grow, you need to understand that. Understand that like as you pick up properties, you need to still limit your expenses. You need to run lean and clean. And we push that big time, right? Like doing away with softwares that you don't need, doing away with certain things that you don't need. So really understanding that side of it is very important. Now, get back to the basics of what is co-hosting? What are you doing it for? How do you figure out if this is a real thing or not, right? Like I talk to people like they're like, no, I don't know what that is, but like that doesn't seem legit. Like Acosta has 40 or 50,000 listings in the nation. So like, of course, right? You rent from somebody in Panama City Beach and it's like Panama City Beach Rentals. Like they manage 200 properties or whatever, 300, 400 properties. Like that is a management company. That is what you're building. That is what you're going for. You just use the word co-host as a coined term because that's what a lot of people understand what it is that's already in the business. So, excuse me. Now, if you are just getting into this, right, it's like, well, where do you even start? Like, how do you even figure out if this is how do you know if it makes money or anything like that? So like on average, and this is a good way like to really think about it. On average, if you pick up a property, and when I say pick up a property, like you sign a contract to manage a property for somebody, if you do that, like we look at just on average, it's $1,000 a door, $1,000 a property. That's what you're going to make as a management fee. Now we have properties that'll pay us $2,500 a month, $4,000 a month. Like we have those like higher end luxury properties that are still paying very good money. And it's not the $1,000 property. Now there are properties that'll pay you $500. I've had them. There are properties that don't pay you at all during your slow season. I have them. I have 2 properties that are super, super seasonal. Still have those expenses to carry. So like if you're going to get into a market that's super seasonal, you got to just kind of think about that. But nonetheless, understanding that one property, like what I just usually tell people conservatively, one property is about $1,000 a month. So if you want to go to, so let's say $20,000 a month, you need about 20 properties. Now you get to about 5 or 7 or 10, you can start like you have the reputation to get into like the higher income properties, luxury properties. Talk to Christine. She was a student for a long time. She's in Power Path, but I've coached her for a long time. And we were on a call yesterday, and she has a property in the Poconos. It's like top property in the Poconos. And I'm super proud of this, by the way. When they took it over, it was doing like 380, I think, is what she said. And this place sleeps like 25 people. It's very big in like bachelorette trips and stuff like that. But like this property was doing like $380,000 a year before she took it over. Now on the books for the year, I think she said they're at 550. Like since they took it over, $550,000 in booking revenue for this property. Tell me that's not crazy. I think I just cut out there for a second. So I'll say that again here in just a second. I can kind of see like I lost some service. So high level, really quick. If you missed that, they had a property that was doing $280,000 a year, which is awesome. It's top property in Poconos. Now it's on the books for this year. It's like $550,000 for the year. Insane. Sleeps 25 people, has a big theater. They were talking about putting a vending machine in for like box candy for theater. It's crazy. Okay. So you get a property like that. She doesn't own it. I told her we had to have her on the podcast. Like she doesn't own it. She has no equity. She's not arbitraging it. She is just managing it. She is just quote unquote co-hosting it. So when you look at that and you do the math on a certain management fee, right? They signed a pretty low management fee just to get in because it's full sales mode. They signed a really good contract. In a couple months, they're about to renegotiate it. They're making way more than $1,000 a month on this property. That is awesome. Absolutely amazing. Okay. So when you can pick up properties like that, that is what builds the financial freedom. Okay. So, I don't like it when people are just like, I'm just going to get 1 deal or 2 deals. I'm like, why? That doesn't even make sense. That doesn't even make sense, right? If you're gonna do this thing, we're doing it for a reason, and you're actually building that service-based business. So it's very important to think about that. Very important to understand that. And co-hosting itself can really open doors for a lot of things. It can open doors in new markets for you to purchase. It can open doors for new business relationships. It can open doors to new businesses. So like somebody comes in and they start the co-hosting company and they're like, okay, they got 10 or 12 deals, but then they start working with owners that want new design, right? So then you open a design company. So like I'm tangenting now, right? I'm getting off track, but nonetheless, like co-hosting could be a door to new avenues, right? Could be a door to new things. So when you look at co-hosting, back to the original question, what is co-hosting? Again, if you've got questions, I'm just going back and forth. If you're looking at co-hosting, what is it? So you're managing a property for somebody, right? So I'll tell you some back in like what we do, right? So we take over the management for an entire property. We are full turnkey. So the owner has nothing to do with the property. They just come and stay whenever they want. They block off the days, they block off the weeks. We have it clean when they leave. Again, my service is starting to go out. I'm not sure why my internet is going low, but bear with me here. Because I can watch myself freeze up on the streaming, which is great. Gotta love it. 2025, and we have spotty internet in certain parts of the house, I guess. So anyways, for the co-hosting side, so we do full turnkey service management, right? So we list the property as a co-host or manager or whatever. We take the property over. We have cameras set up. We have locks changed so we can remotely access all that stuff from there. Then we go to we go into building the listings. We do the revenue management. We manage the cleaners. So we hire and fire the cleaners. We schedule them. We hire the maintenance crews that come in and do that. We got walkthroughs that go on, and we handle all of the booking money that comes in. And some of you are like, well, you have to be a realtor in my state to even touch the money, or you have to be a broker. I mean, and that's a whole nother conversation. That is specific situations, and there are ways around that. But anyways, so like you go through it, and we handle all the money that comes into an escrow account. And then at the end of the month, we send our owners a report. We say, hey, here's all the booking income. Here's the reservations. Here's everything that was expensed. Here's our fee. And then we send them a check every month, is more or less how it works. We also do marketing for the properties. So as you grow and you scale, you can really say, okay, these are things that I can develop inside my company, like a marketing team, or somebody that does emails, website, blogs, that kind of thing. But like that's something that you can focus on as you grow. Like just starting out, it's really not worth doing some of these things, especially because you don't have the cash flow to support it. So when you look at what co-hosting is, if you want to look at co-hosting versus arbitrage, arbitrage is like you are renting a property from somebody, and you're subletting it out, and you're putting it on Airbnb, or you're renting it on corporate travel, or you're renting it on Furnish Finder or whatever. But you usually have to buy all the furniture that goes in it. And that's where like some of these courses that are out there is like, oh, go get your 0% credit card, and you can put all your stuff on that, and it has to pay for itself in 6 months and all that. And that's great, whatever. But it's really, really hard to find your single family homes that do that now because the rates are so high. But also there's a lot of unethical ways of getting these deals to sublet. Like people, the owners don't know what you're doing, and then the owner finds out what you're doing and they're upset, and then they're either raising the rates on you or they're kicking you out. So you have to get really clear on the owners, and that's why like your apartments are better sometimes on going through your townhomes or whatever to get those deals. Again, we don't like really push the arbitrage model, but as I talk to more people who are like really, really gung-ho on arbitrage, it's because they don't understand what co-hosting is, or they don't understand what building a management company is. At the end of the day, most of the operations are the same, right? It doesn't matter if you're owning it, if you're arbitraging it, if you're co-hosting. A lot of your operations are identical, except you have an owner report that's in this, and you have even your escrow money needs to be the same, but you have an owner report that's in this, and you have owners to ask questions for. And there's pros and cons to all of it. What's a pro and con to owning a property? Well, if it doesn't cash flow, it doesn't cash flow. What's a pro to it? Appreciation. And if it does cash flow and you do it very well, you do it correctly, you can make a lot of money. What's a pro and con to arbitrage? There's a lot more cons there than there are pros, in my opinion. Leases get terminated. You have to sell the furniture. You have to buy the furniture. It's not your house at all. Lease agreements, rents go up. Like HOAs, people, like a lot can happen on arbitrage if you don't do it right. If you don't find the right property, find the right owner, and that can be very tough. The pro to that is if you can get one that rents for $2,500 a month, and you can rent it for, I don't know, $6,000 a month, that would probably be a good deal, depending on how much furniture you need. So that would be probably a good deal. But doing that consistently through the months and through the year is tough. So we looked at one. We've got one down in South Carolina, over in South Carolina. I think South Carolina or Florida. I can't remember. Anyways, it was an arbitrage deal, and the owner has it, and then somebody was arbitraging it, and then wanted to hand it to us to take over the arbitrage. And we looked at it, and I said, no, like it's too seasonal. Well, we got a booking for like 11 or 13 grand, and the rent on it's like $3,500 a month. That's great. After they leave, there's no more bookings. Like now we're hung on that, that rent or the lease agreement or whatever. And if you want to break the lease, then you have the whole lease break cost, right? So you have all of this stuff. Now, what's the pros and cons to co-hosting? Well, you're not in charge of the property, right? You manage the property, but you have no say so if they're going to sell it, what they're going to buy. Like you assist in that. But at the end of the day, it's not your property. So I've had people like move into them because they're super nice properties. I've had them move into them. I've had them sell them. And then let's see some other changes. I've had some people go self-management. So that's a con to co-hosting, but that's just business. But also on the pro side, you still get paid regardless if the house makes money or not. You still have a certain, still have a management fee. If it cash flows or not, it doesn't matter. Things that happen to the property are not, it's not your property. So if the house needs a new roof or the AC goes out, you don't have to come out of pocket to repair these things, right? You assist them, you make it easier for them, you try to find the best quotes, you handle that, but you're not the one coming out of pocket to replace, a $7,000 AC system. So you got to remember that. Now, you're not getting appreciation if there is any appreciation, but the pro to it is it's super scalable and doesn't cost you anything to get into, right? Versus like arbitrage or down payment on a house. If you don't have the cash to put down or buy furniture, co-hosting tends to be the best way to go, at least until you build that cash flow up and you say, okay, now I'm going to buy one, right? So you have these things that happen across the board, but at the end of the day, depending on the situation, co-hosting is like more than not the best way to go. It's scalable, super quick. And you're building a business, right? At the end of the day, you're building a business and you learn business at the end of it. So maybe you go for like, I don't know, 2 years into co-hosting, and then you're like, hey, I'm going to develop a trash company. I'm going to develop a bookkeeping company. I'm going to develop a landscaping company. So there's all these, you have your business flywheel and you have your main business of management, and you're interacting with all these other different businesses around you. And so that's your trash company, your bookkeeping, your maintenance company, your cleaning companies, like all of these things that you interact with. Now you start it. Now you have another business that you can fully scale, service all of the other homes around you, build it individually, and sell it. If you want to sell it in 3 years, you can sell it in 3 years. So that's high level, like what co-hosting is. If you're on the fence between like arbitrage and co-hosting, I'll just tell you, look at the market, figure out how much cash you actually have. Does it make sense? I've worked with people who were trying to arbitrage for like 2 years, and they're like, I can't find anything. I'm talking to all these owners and the rents are too high. I'm like, yeah, I know. It's almost like arbitrage is kind of like a side model. Like if you come across a property that someone wants to rent to you, perfect. But like that money, like that inflow and outflow has to make sense, right? That investment has to make sense. Your cash on cash return has to make sense, because you will have to fund a lot of these furniture expenses. Sometimes your lease might say that you're responsible for all the maintenance, except like an AC, but like all of the maintenance is back on you. So it just depends, right? Like it just depends on the situation, but co-hosting definitely is the fastest way to grow financial freedom, period. End of story. In short-term rentals, period, right? It doesn't matter if you have $2 million in the bank, you're going to want to buy a $10 million house, usually, right? Because you want to deploy that into something else. And I wouldn't say $10 million house. I'd say like, okay, boutique hotel. Like we're going to go down the hotel route. That's a totally different story. But what I mean is, like, the more money you have in the bank, the bigger property you want to buy, and the faster you will run out of cash. It's just the way it is. Until you refinance out or you sell it or whatever, that cash is going to be deployed and it's going to be gone. So when we go through it and we start looking at all these options, you tell me, co-hosting is usually the bigger part there. Now, what you'll see is they're not called co-hosting companies. They're actually called like boutique management companies, boutique vacation rental management companies. So then you have like the VRMA, and you have these other things that are like, well, we're different. Like a lot of people that do like VRMA stuff don't rent on Airbnb. They just rent on like VRBO and then direct, and that's it. So understanding that we utilize all platforms, Airbnb, Vrbo, Booking.com, direct bookings, all of those together, we utilize all that stuff so we can understand, like, the more exposure you have, the better of a chance to have a book calendar and to make more money, right? And we're doing a service for our owners. So anyways, that's like majority of what co-hosting is, how we do it. If you want to get into lead gen or something like that, like that's a whole another topic of the conversation. That's what we have the challenge for. So the challenge is going on. It just started this week. A couple emails already went out. Our first call is tomorrow. If you're interested in doing a 90-day challenge because you're like, hey, I want to do this co-hosting thing, I want to grow as fast as possible, last year during the challenge we did, it was $800,000 in contracts created, $800,000 a year in yearly contracts created, management contracts. It was like 66 contracts created. The goal for us actually for this challenge is to throw 25 on the board for our personal company. So we're going to grow just like you guys are growing. So we create these like challenges. We have this environment that really produces massive results. And it's all about getting in there and getting done. So if you're on the verge of like starting a co-hosting company, or you're kind of stuck in your growth or something like that, getting in something like this, challenge or something is really, really the way to go. If you want to arbitrage, or, you want to just go find a deal in arbitrage, you don't care about anything else, then like, I wouldn't be willing to bring you into something like this, because I'm not going to shove that down your throat, right? There's other ways. Like, you want to buy, perfect. You're in the right area. If you want to co-host, you're in the right area. If you just want arbitrage, I would just say open your mind to some other things. Let's see, what's another Q&A question? Property management softwares is a good one. If you're going to be co-hosting for a lot of owners, I would personally recommend something like OwnerRez. I came from Hospitable to Guesty to OwnerRez, and I would say I don't push Guesty because of the price. It's too expensive. It doesn't do much more than any other one. It is a little bit easier on the eyes to navigate through. But I'll tell you, OwnerRez is better for us because cost, and we get some other stuff for free. Like Turno is for free. The lock management is super cheap. It's like $4 a listing, or $4 a lock. But also they have all these owner statements that are designed for owner statements, and they're already in development of like their second or third version. Whereas like you have some other company like Hospitable, which Hospitable was fine. That's where we started, but they didn't have owner statements at the time. Now, what I heard is there's a workaround, and they're working on it and try to produce it and whatever. But you have to remember companies like that just bring it in versus another company that's working on their second or third revision. You have this like, they just started, but this other company's already there, and they started at that level. They were there 5 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever. And now they're already here. And so now everybody else is just getting into the owner statement market. So it's really tough to say like, well, they're better than, these people if they just got into the market for this, for this like niche for owner statements, whatever. So I like OwnerRez because they do that. They also do like internal payment processing. So you don't have to go and like try to take in booking income or VRBO income from something else. It's just incorporated. So PMS is a good one. At scale, you have to remember like you're branding your company more so than trying to brand a property. So if you own a property, yes, brand it. But if you just have a company that manages properties, there's only so much that you're like really can do. Now you can create a product where it says, hey, you're gonna have your own booking link, you're gonna have your own Facebook profile, Instagram. We can set all that up for you, what have you, for $150 or whatever. Like, you can do that if that's what you want to do. What else? What else is good for co-hosting? What's another good question for co-hosting? Let's see. What is a reasonable amount of money to make? That's probably a good one. And how quickly? So usually the first goal for a lot of people is 10K a month when they get into co-hosting. They want to make 10 grand a month. And there's really no reason that you can't hit that number in the first year. If you have the hustle, you have the grind, you have the right mentality. If you're like, well, I don't know, I just want to do a property here, property there, I don't really want to grow that much, then that could take you like forever, right? If you really haven't figured out what you're doing, that could take you a long time. So just to kind of give you a sense, like there's really no reason. Like if you tell me that you've been in STRs for a year, you've been co-hosting or managing for a year, and you're not at 10 grand, there's a problem. And it's usually internal. It's not a market problem. It's a why problem. It's a desire issue internally to you. So that's a really good metric, I would say. Is like your first goal is usually 10K, then it's like 25, then it's 50, then it's 100. So those are kind of like the progressions for a lot of people. And you want to, relate that back to properties at some point, right? You want to say, okay, well, 10 grand a month will be 10 properties. And then you can look, well, I want to net 10 grand a month. Okay, cool. So like get to the 10K in gross, and then let's see what your cash flow looks like and what your expenses look like. Let's see how we cut that back, and then flop and see like, okay, well, you're netting this much money per property. How many properties do you need to get to 20 net or 10 net or whatever? So these are real conversations. These are real conversations that we have. I have students that I have on calls with the community. Like, these are real conversations. So it looks like I'm about to spill my coffee in this camera here. So let's see. Let's see. You got to remember, for co-hosting, if you're a management company, you're building a management company, you are building a brand, you're building a company. So you want to familiarize yourself with other companies near you, right? Or the Chamber of Commerce. You also want to start building that brand internally. So like your Facebook page, your Instagram page, your website, informational stuff about you. And, like me and Allie do this all together. So like informational stuff about me and Allie, informational stuff about our market, things like that, to really kind of like push that in the right direction for people to become more aware of you. And then from there, you got your Google My Business page. You have like all of these things that you need to develop to build that foundation of business before you really start pushing your business, right? You can have the best product in the world, but if people don't know who you are or what you do, you can't sell it. So you could be the best operator in the world. You could be the best person in your market in the entire world. But if you don't push that and you don't let people know what you're doing, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter at all. So let's see. You got that. You got a bunch of different ways to lead gen. You got things like cold calling owners, or there's a bunch of different ways to do that. Cold calling owners, realtors, anybody and everybody that has to do with a real estate transaction. And there's a lot of different call scripts and a lot of different things there. You have like cleaner recommendations. You have your Google My Business pages, your SEO, your Facebook groups, your forums, your bigger pocket stuff, meetup networks, swag, right? Like I'm wearing a bunch of swag right now. Let's see what else. There's referrals across the board. You could teach realtors. You could, to have them kind of lead gen for you. You can't do that at like less than like 10 properties though. Like under 10, you wouldn't want to do something like that. Let's see. I'm trying to think here. Trying to think. What is something else about co-hosting? That's a general question. Again, you guys have questions, make sure you throw it in. Let's see. Just starting out co-hosting. That would be a good one. You can sell co-hosting companies, right? So I kind of mentioned this earlier. You can sell contracts. You can sell the whole company, depending on how much money you're making or how many contracts you have. Like there's an EBITDA, and then which is like your NOI before your expensive. I mean NOI before your debt service kind of thing. If you take your EBITDA and you multiply it, traditionally, if you have like under 50 properties, let's just say, if you're under 50 properties, you're going to be like in that 1 to 2x of what your management fees are, like just the fees. If you're over 50, and it's come down a little bit, so I'm just using 50 as like an arbitrary number. I know somebody who got to 50 and then they sold it. They were in Southern California. They grew to 50 properties in 3 years, and then they sold it for like $4 million. Like that's when I mean it's service-based industry, service-based business that can be purchased. That's what I'm talking about. Now, over 50, you are more of like a very, very, very established company. Usually you've been operating for years. And then they want to look at what your business income looks like, not just your management fees, but like you're running a team, you're running a lot of things. What does that actually look like as a business that somebody can come in, purchase it, and take over all your employees, take over your systems, take over your logins, and you just plug and play yourself, with the new owner. That's it, right? So that is a little bit more of like, okay, EBITDA times like 4, 5, 6, 7, right? That's going to be like your multiplier. So it's something to think about. There was a Julie George, I think is her last name. Yeah, Julie George. She was huge in Australia. She had like 100 and I'm going to butcher this, but I think she had 150 something properties, and a big name company came in and bought her out, bought the entire business. And she had this huge business structure, organizational charts and all that stuff. And she showed it to everybody. We were at a conference when we watched it, and she ended up exiting for like, I really don't know, like 10 million, maybe. I really don't know. She had to sign an NDA. So nobody on this earth actually knows the true number other than her. She said there's people who try to guess, like in articles and publications. Nobody seemed to get it right. So I would say like probably close to around $10 million. She sold it. And that was in Australia. And that was like 5 years ago. So somebody really came in, knocking at the door, bought her out. And now she just travels and talks at conferences and writes books and stuff like that. So, but you have to remember, like, as a business, that when you start something like co-hosting company, you're starting a service-based industry. You're starting a service-based business. And when I say that, I really want to emphasize, like, you could take it across the board. Like, you could take it to any level that you want to. You really can. You can take it to 200, 300, 400, 500 properties, 1,000 properties. Vacasa has 40,000. So it really doesn't matter, right? Like, you could do whatever you want with it. But if you don't have hustle, if you don't have grind, and you don't have grit mixed well with the right mindset, you're not going to grow to that level. So 90% of all companies never even reach $1 million a year. 90%. 0.4% of the ones that do reach $1 million a year, like 0.4% of those companies get to 10 million a year. That's what, $1 million a month. Right, it would be 12 million a year. But you see what I'm saying. So, like, without having those two combined, you're never going to reach that level. Now, that may not be your goal, and that's totally cool. If that's not your goal to go to 10 million a year, that's fine. But if your goal is to go to 100K a month, that's $1 million a year, right? That's 1.2. If that's your goal, then like you got to have some grit. Now, I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but you can have the right mindset. But if you don't have the hustle, or you don't have the 20% action that comes with it, you're never going to get anywhere. If you have the hustle and the grit and you don't have the right mindset, you'll win a couple of times. You'll get a couple of deals. It just won't be sustainable. Like, you'll be like, well, I'm just going to work a little harder and a little harder and a little harder. And either you'll get burnt out, or things just won't happen right. You're going to miss a lot of stuff. Your operation is going to suck. You're never going to really grow. You're never going to have the why. You're never going to have the desire. You have to mix those, right? You can't manifest from the couch, but you have to be able to visualize kind of where you're going, so we can combine the hustle and the grit to it. So we can build the co-hosting company that we want to support our dreams, right? So when we start, we always kind of get dialed in of like, what's your goal? What's your why? Why are we here? What is the true reason? Not just like everybody's goal is like financial freedom, but like, what does that even mean? Right? I was on a call with a guy. I was like, okay, you want financial freedom? What does that mean? He was like, exactly what I just told you. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. You don't even know what financial freedom means, because it means something different to every single person. So understanding what your financial freedom is, what that number is a month, that is what's able to set you up to actually succeed. Like, period, in a story. Because we have to operate with a goal, right? If you're not operating with a goal, we have a problem. Now, if the goal is 5K a month, cool. Why? What does 5K a month buy us? Does that get us out of a W-2 job? If the goal is 50K a month, cool. But like, if you only need 10 and you can't figure out what to do with the other 40, you're never going to get to the 50, because there's not a reason there. It's just a number that you arbitrarily, like, you just made up off the top of your head. So we have to get really clear, because if we're going to build the business, we have to be able to say, like, okay, our teams are set up, this is set up, this is set up, and really understand like where we're going, why we're going, and we make decisions based off what we want. So once you start making decisions based off what you want, and you want to get to the 50K, you will start taking on different types of properties. You will start hiring different types of team members. It won't be somebody to just fill a void or a slot. It's somebody that brings intention. So when you grow, if you want to grow a company and you want to grow a business, this is a great place to start. Like co-hosting is the place to start. If you're like, no, I just want to buy one and step into it, like you can do that and you can buy a co-hosting company, but you definitely need to find somebody to help you, help you understand how to underwrite it, what your contracts look like, what your revenue looks like, what your team looks like, all that stuff. So just make sure everybody's in it and that does this is like in it together and you have some good advice. Okay. Any other things with your co-hosting side? Co-hosting company, your name needs to be somewhat related to what you're doing, right? So don't do something like Future Investments Inc. and you're like, I manage properties, like vacation rentals. Like that doesn't make any sense. I would do something like maybe tied to your area or tied to Airbnbs or vacation rentals or something like that, like Breezy Wind Rentals or like Mountain Rentals, LLC or something like that. Like, if you're on the coast, maybe you do like Coast Winds Rentals or just something that kind of goes with that name. Like I've had people had a guy come in, he already had an LLC, already had a name because he wanted to try to buy a property. And he just made a DBA for the actual rental company, which is perfect. That's totally cool. But you want to make sure that aligns with where you're going. So when a prospect comes in and they're like, oh, I don't want to go with Future Investments, Inc. They look like they're a lending company or something. Like you don't want to be detoured just by the name when somebody's like, well, I don't even know what that is. Right. So let's see. I think that's really about it. About what is co-hosting. So if you got any question, I'm just going to go back through and make sure I don't have anything new on here. Let's see. I think that's it. I'm probably just going to leave it there. If you guys have any other questions, throw it in the group, leave a comment on these videos, send me a message, DM me directly, something like that. I'll get back with you. That's not a problem. Let's see. We've been on about 45 minutes. So if you're still here, you're just stopping by, just kind of a couple things that we got going on. We started Acquisitions Live on Monday. That's a 90-minute live. We're doing it every Monday. So if you're looking to buy a property, we have them locked up, or we have stuff that are just bringing awareness to certain markets, hotels or short-term rentals. It doesn't matter, but a lot of it's creative. So if it's a property that we already have locked up or dispo and it's a creative deal, so there's an entry fee, there's a price. You're probably assuming a really, really good interest rate. It was like a 2.2 or 2.5 interest rate on Monday that could be assumed. There's Utah, Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas, California, Ohio, I think, Missouri. There was a bunch that we started showcasing on Monday. If you're in the PowerPath community and you see a deal that you like, you get the first 48 hours of exclusivity. Excuse me. After that, it's public. So even if we showed one that's online that got like under contract today, and we showed it today to the public, those first 48 hours are only limited to PowerPath. So if you're like, hey, I want this deal and you're not in PowerPath, that's okay. But the first 2 days are totally just for them. So we'll just keep you on the list. Say, hey, like if we don't have anybody buy it in the first 2 days, then you can have it. And they're either long-term rentals. Most of them are short-term rentals. We did have a couple that are primary residences. So if that's something that's kind of appealing to you and you want to get in a new home, you want to quit renting or whatever, and it's a perfect area for you, make sure you have that. We also have, we've brought both sides into PowerPass, right? So it's not just this like co-hosting, but it's also purchase. So it's like a done with you service. So if you're looking to purchase a property, we have a killer wholesale team that's working on getting deals just for people. The same team that's like locking them up right now, just all over the nation, looking at certain markets. A lot of it's creative. So it's not traditional finance. Like it can be too, but most of the time it's traditional. I mean, most of the time it's creative finance. So we're either wrapping mortgages, sub-twos, seller finance, lower down payments, that kind of thing. So under 10% down, 7% down, 5% down, depending on what the fee is to come in, like the entry fees. So the entry fees are already set up. That's a down payment to the seller, trying to get them out, what it costs to close it, that kind of thing. Your headhunting fee. So that is set up, and the done for you services is not done for you. I'm sorry, it's done with you, right? So you're like heavily involved in this situation, heavily involved in the learning. So like I'm teaching you how to fish, or we're teaching you how to fish as you are looking for these deals, and that way you can just replicate it, right? Like as we go. So that is something that we have along with co-hosting and operations. And again, it all revolves down around co-hosting. Around the co-hosting side, we have the 90-day challenge that just started. I talked about it at the very beginning of this. Just started this week. We're going 12 weeks, 90 days, internal and power path. So if you want to jump in the challenge, let's jump on a call and figure out if it's right for you. But we're going to put probably over 100 contracts on the board this time, and that's insane. So if you do 100 contracts at, that's 1.2, yeah, it's like 1.2 million a year. So if you did 100 contracts, I'll just do some math real quick. That's $100,000. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, because we just say $1,000 a piece, so it's $100,000 a month times 12 months. That's $1.2 million in co-hosting contracts. So that combined with the last contract, the last challenge will be $2 million in co-hosting contracts created in a 12-week challenge, which is amazing. Okay, so if you want to start scale your co-hosting company, or you want to grow it and you really like, you're stuck, you don't have the motivation anymore, you're kind of like getting burnt out, this is exactly what you need to do. So we have that going on. Anything different? We're going to continue doing these lives, so you're just going to see this every Wednesday. We're just going to have different live trainings, Q&As, ask me anything, that kind of thing. We do stuff on hotels, we do stuff on co-hosting, we do stuff on operations, building teams. Let's see, what else do we got going on? I think that's probably it. That's a lot of stuff. But you're going to see us more on YouTube. We're going to start focusing more stuff on YouTube. So if you're not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, we just like renovated the whole YouTube channel, just started posting back, like putting all our stuff back on there. So it's a freshly new YouTube channel. I need some likes and subscribes, because I think I've got like 33 people on there now. So if you're not following us on YouTube, go follow me. Just Kyle Fugit on YouTube. We've got our podcast that's up there. We've got our old trainings that we've done that are up there. All of our live trainings get put there. So just hang around, stick around, learn some stuff, grow your business. If you're not looking to get in a community or any kind of mentorship, and you just kind of want to grow along the side of us, that's cool. That is totally cool. But you're going to do it a whole lot faster with somebody kind of holding your hand, of course. But yeah, so with that, I leave you. Friday is Good Friday, and Easter's this weekend. So I hope you guys have a blast with your families. Regardless if you celebrate Easter or not, I'm sure you're going to be together. So make sure you have a great time with your families, your kids, your spouse. And if you guys need anything at all, you have any questions whatsoever, make sure you shoot me a message. Join that Facebook group if you're not already in it. It's a Power Path free group. If you're not in the YouTube channel and you're already subscribed on the YouTube channel, make sure you go subscribe to that. And for that, I will leave you guys and have a great rest of your week. So I'll see you later. Adios.